Are you here again? Apparently you are. Well, I guess in that case it's masks you probably want to talk about. So, since you're here, the mask fanatic, my mask fanatic, let's go ahead and discuss ahead. Yeah, for example, this one. What is this? It's the Teenage Werewolf from the 1957 drive-in horror hit. The highly influential, if cheap and a little bit senseless, drive-in classic, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And the werewolf in this case played by none other than Michael Landon, who you may remember from other shows like Little House on the Prairie, Highway to Heaven, other things with the same guy. Yeah, that Michael Landon. When he was young, he played the teenage werewolf in the 50s, and the teenage werewolf's human name was Tony Rivers, if anybody cares. And this actually is I think one of the cooler werewolf makeup designs out there. The script, well, there are some problems. The movie itself is not going to be in danger of being heralded as a big classic or anything, but it's kind of fun to watch, and it has its moments, and it's fairly well made, kind of suspenseful here and there. Well, now you guys know my wife, Laura, right? Laura lady that does the hair or the masks. Here's a good Laura story, by the way, about this. Some years ago, a bunch of us were together at a convention and talking about old monster movies and things that we saw on TV when we were kids that scared us, and somebody said something about Teenage Werewolf, and Laura said, oh yeah, she said I always had such a crush on the Teenage Werewolf because I saw that movie on late night TV, etc. And someone else who was there said, oh, all the girls had a crush on Michael Landon back then. And Laura said, no, I'm talking about the werewolf. Meaning not when he was human, but when he was actually this. Well, Topstone did a Teenage Werewolf mask kind of inspired by, well, clearly inspired by, but kind of like it. It wasn't really accurate. It wasn't really very collectible. It wasn't really... it wasn't all that impressive, but it was a teenage werewolf. Other than that, there hadn't really been any masks of this character back in 1994 when Laura decided to sculpt her own version of it. And to this day, a lot of people seem to think I sculpted this one, but I really didn't. So let me set the record straight here. All I did on this mask was paint it, and you really don't have to be very clever to do that little of a paint job. Okay, the main thing here is, of course, the hair, and Laura sculpted the mask herself on a Don Post armature, by the way, an old Don Post sculpting armature, and I thought it was cool the way she did it. She started out trying to make it look like Michael Landon, a simplified young Michael Landon, and then put the teeth in and, you know, go from there, and the pointed ears and stuff. And I think it worked. I think this is a nice piece. It looks a lot like him. Now, most of the editions that we did here, I traded copies unpainted and so forth, and, you know, gave them to friends and whatever. This one is, I believe, the only edition we ever did ourselves that had no copies finished by anybody else. Every copy of this one was finished here because it was a very personal project for Laura, and she felt very strongly about the hair, and she wanted the hair to be done a certain way, and she didn't want to send, you know, blank ones out and have people stick a piece of fun fur and you know, a goofy wig and a cheap mustache and stuff on and make terrible looking masks. So we didn't let any of these out undone. Well, there was one that we let out undone, and the guy was going to paint it himself and then send it back for Laura to hair it. He's a friend of mine who gave up on that and never could get the paint looking how he wanted it. And I hope he doesn't watch this, because about 2 minutes ago I said you didn't have to be very clever to paint one of these, and then I just remembered that he wasn't clever enough to paint one. Well, maybe he's painted it by now. Maybe he's painted it by now, and it's in the mail, and it's going to come back for Laura to... Anyway, we made some of these for a while, and when I say we, I mean Laura really did the hard stuff. I cast them up and painted them, but Laura had originally done the sculpture, obviously, and then she did this fantastic hair job, which was pretty much the same on all of them. Sometimes the color varies a little because you can't get 100% fidelity to a certain color in the world of hair. Sometimes from one batch to the next, from one dye lot to the next, things change just a little, so the hair might be just a little bit more red or just a little bit more brown or just a little bit more gray when you're talking about human hair especially. And this particular mask was always haired with real human hair in the back. All this is human hair. The blonde and the brown, that's all human hair. And then this, the facial hair, which took her forever to do on every copy because it's put on there very, very finely and in a very subtle sort of way. That wasn't usually human hair. That was usually a blend, sometimes with some human hair in it, sometimes just a blend of dyed yak hair and crepe hair and so forth. But she would always blend it herself and try to make it look like it worked with the rest of the face. And as far as the different lengths and the different textures of hair you see here, like the hair looks a little different here from the hair here, just a little different, and the hair on the face looks slightly different from the hair on the neck, and that's all based on observations made from careful study of stills from the movie. It really does seem that there were some differences in the hair on this makeup job on this character from one part to the next. Now all the copies haired by Laura had the two blonde streaks, which he has in the movie. Maybe they were white streaks, nobody seems to know, but I think the blonde looks good. It doesn't look too stark, it doesn't look too severe against the brown. It gives him a lot of style and character, but it doesn't make him look like an old middle-aged werewolf with white streaks in his hair, because he's a teenage werewolf, you see. But I wanted to show you this because I wanted you to know that Laura made it and I didn't. I only painted these things. I would guess that we made maybe 35 of these over the years, and we discontinued it a few years ago. We made them for friends for a while. We discontinued it some years ago because the mold just was worn out, and we only ever had one mold on this thing, and it takes too long anyway to make them, and we just kind of thought enough was enough. But occasionally one turns up on eBay. I've seen them, unfortunately, in kind of rough shape sometimes at haunted attractions and museums that we made them for, because sometimes people take them out of the bag and the hair is all smashed too flat. Or the other thing is, I've seen them horribly abused at haunted houses because people would leave them on a mannequin dummy, and then kids can come up and mess with them and mess up the hair, and he ends up looking like Chewbacca. But this one in my hand here, you see before you, is more like it's supposed to look. The 1994 edition, available for some time after that, but no more. The Laura Lady, I Was a Teenage Werewolf Collector mask. And join me up here again next week, because if you thought this was outrageous, wait till you see the one I'm going to show you next week. No, I don't have anything in mind. I just said that, so they'll watch again. They don't know I don't have anything in mind. They'll watch just because I said. They'll think there's something. What do you mean we're still on?